First question from you. How excited are you for this latest season of LLC in India?
Oh, look, I'm really looking forward to it. My experience last year for the last few games and then into the final was something very special. To be able to play with the Bulwara Kings, to be able to reconnect with a number of players that I played against, really for the first time, to play with them for the Bulwara Kings. Like Irfan Pathan, to be able to reconnect with Yusuf Pathan, who I played with the Rajasthan Royals days early on the first year of IPL,
Mhm.
and then also a few others like in the first year, Tim Bresnan, who I only played against, and we had a big battles on the field. So that's the beauty of the Legends League, has been able to play with people that either played against before and never played with, or reconnecting with new people that I've only played against, but also then just new people to be able to just get to know different people from different walks of life. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this next season. And the one thing that stood out for me, especially in the games in Jodhpur, was just the following. To be able to to be able to play in front of a packed crowd, and the atmosphere in Jodhpur was absolutely incredible. So that, I thought those days were done once I retired from playing cricket professionally, a couple of years back. So to be able to have that opportunity to be able to play in front of full crowds again was something very, very cool. So I'm looking forward to that again as well.
My second question from you. How important and how great are such tournaments for you as a player and for fans?
I think it's great to be able to get out on the field. Like I've always, my body's always been a challenge, especially the last sort of number of years of my playing days. So that is the challenge. The joy that I get for being out in the middle of that competition, but more so the skill of playing, the skill of batting in particular, is something that, it is what I know better than anything in my life. Really, is the technique and skill of batting and cricket in general. So that's the joy that I really get out of it, because I thought that was, once I retired, as I mentioned earlier, once I retired officially, I thought that was going to be the last time I used my cricket skills, apart from my knowledge that I've gained. So it's better to have that opportunity, and is something. Look, it's something very, very special. That's for sure. And then to be able to sort of just get out in that, that competition sort of competitive sort of space is something, that's enjoyable. But it's something that I, never thought I'd get the opportunity to be able to do again, and it's a lot of fun.
My next question from you is: you are playing under the captaincy of Irfan Pathan for Bhilwara Kings, something that you have done before as well. How is Irfan? How is Irfan as a captain?
Well, Irfan's obviously an incredibly experienced cricketer, not just as with his skills that he's got, batting and bowling skills, but also being around, so many great leaders as well through his time playing international cricket. So look, I've always enjoyed my rivalries with Irfan, playing against him, whether that's Australia versus India, or playing against him in the IPL. So I've always enjoyed those battles. They've always been fiercely contested, but always in the right spirit. So then to be able to play under him, he's a very competitive guy, as we all are, and that's really comes through in his leadership style, as well as his leadership on the field. So it's a great attribute, and it's no secret the reason why he was so successful through his career as well is, he's got a competitive spirit, which is, what makes, the great cricketers.
Sir, my next question. You retired from international cricket a long while back, and Legends League cricket, while it is some serious, some competitive cricket with some highly experienced superstars, it is not. It doesn't really has the intensity and pressure that international cricket has. So, what kind of preparations do you, as a cricketer, undergo for events like these?
Yeah, look, there's no doubt that it's not the same pressure. Certainly, we're doing it just to enjoy ourselves, sort of get back out on the field, and we all feel very fortunate and privileged to be able to have this chance to be able to play at this stage of our life. most of us, if not all of us, when we retired, thought that was going to be the last time that we used our cricket skills. So to be able to have the opportunity through LLC to be able to sort of get out onto the ground again and do it professionally is something that we feel very fortunate about. Yeah, the preparation side of things is it all comes down to the individual to make sure that you are ready to go around the other things you're going on in your life. But the one thing that I do know is there is the quality of content that's on, even though people know that it's not going to be how that player was when they're absolute best when they're playing international cricket. There's still interest. There's still it's still a joy to watch to be able to watch like it is for me watching my favorite players still playing, even if you know they're not going to be at their absolute best, what you remember them in their heyday. But to be able to still see them do their thing, it's very enjoyable to be able to play, but also to be able to watch, and that's the reason why we saw so many people come along to the games, whether that was in Jodhpur with my experience, but also the final in Jaipur, and the reason why people are watching it on TV as well, because it's something of that the content is still very enjoyable for people to be able to watch and see their heroes, even in a slightly lesser capacity, but still, showing their skills on the, on the bigger stage, not the biggest stage, but the bigger stage.
Now time for some Cricket World Cup questions. Shane, how your thoughts on Australia's performance in the tournament so far?
Yeah, look, Australia's in a great place now. There's no question. Things started off very scratchy, and I was worried after those first two games that Australia played that it was just going to be it might go along the same lines as what it's been for England throughout this tournament. That we just looked a bit tired. We didn't look like we were up for the contest. We didn't look like we were up for the games. We were sluggish in the field. Just our skill execution was a bit off with both bat and ball. And I thought that might be the way that the Australians go, but it's certainly turned around from that third game after about 15 overs against Sri Lanka, and then things have continued on. Really, and playing the way that I know the Australians can play with the caliber of skill that they've got in their team, with the experience that they have. So, look, I'm very, very confident the way they're playing, that they can certainly look for me right now. Whether they're batting first or bowling first, I feel that Australia, they're just about the other team. Well, I know they're the team that India fear the most if they have to play them in a semi-final or a final, because of the world-class players that Australia have, and also world-class players who've won big tournaments before.
Exactly.
So that's where South Africa, of course, they're playing great cricket. We saw that last night against New Zealand as well. They're dominant, batting first, whereas batting second. And also, we all know the history of South Africa with their ability to be able to play, perform in knockout games. Where Australia and India know this, and the Australians know this as well, that Australia know how to win big tournaments and play well in those big tournaments. They've got that experience with the players they've got. So, look, I'm very excited the way Australia are playing, and I'm stoked for them, because that's when you see the players playing at their best, then that's, as from an Australian perspective, that's what you always want. You want to see that intensity and see them desperate to be at their best. And we've certainly seen that in the last number of games. The next game with Glenn Maxwell missing out because of that mishap and also Mitchell Marsh, unfortunately going home because of personal reasons, which I hope everything's okay with his family. So hopefully things will be able to get back on track. But the way Australia are going and the distance in that top four at this point in time is enough. But the way Australia are playing, in by missing Maxwell and Mitch Marsh, and the way England are playing, England are going to have to turn up as very different people to be able to beat Australia, even with Australia missing Maxwell, Maxwell and Mitch Marsh.
My next question from you is the performance of Australian middle order a little bit of concerns, because what we saw in their recent two matches, the openers gave Australia a flying start. It seemed that Australia could even make 500 at one point. But then there was a brief lull in the middle. There was a decline in run rate. There were a few quick wickets. And then there was some great finishing done by Glenn Maxwell, Josh Inglis and all. Steve Smith, Manas Labuschagne uh, and others were not in the middle order, were not exactly in their best form during these two recent matches. Do you think the middle order is a concern for Australia right now?
Look, my biggest concern is just the movement around of the batting order and just enough. But that was always going to happen when Travis Head came in. That was going to be number one, was Mitch Marsh was going to move down to number three. And Travis Head came in and obviously he's so dominant, has been dominant for the last 12 to 18 months opening the batting. So that's a good thing. The biggest thing for Mitch Marsh is to get his head around is even if he comes in and starts against spin, he's still got to have the same aggressive intent like he does when he opens, because that's when he is at his best. We saw it in that last game. He soaked up a lot of balls and he was just trying to rotate strike, which is not Mitchell Marsh's game.
Hmm.
If he's gonna come in and do that at number three, he shouldn't bat at number three. Steve Smith should, because Steve Smith's better at rotating strike against spin, at being able to take spin on and hit in certain areas and find boundaries. So that's more so just a game plan and understanding what your role is in the team and also what the best version of them is in that role. So, Mitch Marsh isn't there in this next game to be able to just put it right after that last game. And the same thing with Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne. They have to understand what their role is depending on the situation of the game and then adapt accordingly. And and that's where them and that's for me that's why Marcus Stoinis plays such a huge role move out. So then people go back into more so their roles. Whereas when you got four and five Smith and Labuschagne through that middle order, for me that doesn't look balanced at all. And you got two players who are more rotators of the strike and aren't really gonna and can get stuck at times. So that's where Marcus Stoinis coming in just provides a bit more balance within the batting lineup, because that is the biggest concern at this point in time. It just seems like a few guys are batting out of their most comfortable position and they don't fully understand how to play that role with what the team needs in various scenarios. And that is the challenge that Australia have got, is the roles and where people fit, whereas India don't have that at this point in time. Their batting lineup's very set. Obviously, Surya Kumar Yadav has come in to bat at number six, but it's a very specific role that he does. The top five are very clear on what they need to do. So that's why they are certainly more settled. And when it comes to a knockout game, like a semi-final or a final of a World Cup, when you've got more continuity within your team and the roles within your team, it just gives you that little upper hand against the opposition under pressure. So that's my biggest concern with the Australian team at this point in time.
Now coming to India, what are your thoughts on India's performance so far? They're undefeated in the tournament so far, and they've got a match today as well against Lanka.
Oh, India have been so dominant, and it's been super impressive to be able to watch a team with no weakness. And it's shown even after, with Hardik Pandya there, it was like a full complete package. Now that Hardik Pandya is not there, it's meant that they've had to just put two players into one, which is what Hardik Pandya provides, because he's such a gun, medium pace, fast bowling all rounder. But the upside has been we've seen Mohammad Shami get an opportunity and really make the most of that, and he's bowling amazingly well. So then, like, if Hardik Pandya comes back in, for me, there might have to be a decision between Siraj and Shami, which gosh, that's a blessing for India to potentially have to make that call. That's an embarrassment of riches, really, to be able to think that might be one of the calls that they have to make, because Mohammad Siraj has been bowling nicely through the tournament. So, look, it's reminded me, even after the first couple of games for India, it reminded me of watching the Australian team in 2003 and also being a part of the 2007 World Cup Australian teams, where they were so dominant. There was no real weakness. And you can see why they went through the tournaments undefeated, because there was just no team that could expose. There was no real weakness. So, and that's what I see the Indian team at this point in time. They're just so dominant. All their players are at their best. Jadeja, like spinning conditions, Jadeja's bowling really well. Kuldeep Yadav is bowling, and he's been doing it for the last 12 to 18 months, is bowling the best he ever has in one-day cricket. if fast bowlers are bowling well, Jasprit Bumrah is a freak of nature with the skill that he has in all situations, all types of conditions. Their batters are in fine form. So that's why, for me, Australia at this point in time are the only team that could beat India. But if India play at their best, I think even Australia they'll. I think they'll be. It'll be very hard for Australia to beat India. If India and all their players turn up the way they have, they're going to be just about impossible to beat.
Shane, my last question from you. Virat Kohli is also in some amazing touch. He's just 2 centuries away from completing 50 centuries in ODIs and going past our idol, our role model, and even his role model, Sachin Tendulkar. Your thoughts on Virat Kohli's form right now, and who's the better of two in ODIs, Virat or Sachin?
Yeah, Virat's been at his absolute best, and it's been incredible to watch. But that's how he's been for majority of his career. There's only been really one little sort of period 18 months or so ago where he had a bit of a dry run, um, which is to be expected. He is a human being after all. He's not Superman where you just stay fully at your best throughout your whole career. But to be able to see him come back over the last 12 months and just continue to produce for India and bat as well as he does, chase runs as he does, which is just that is superhuman with what he's been able to do throughout his career in chasing runs. Look, he really is a marvel to watch, and to be able to think that he's coming close to 50 one-day international hundreds it's mind blowing. It is mind blowing to think that Sachin Tendulkar was able to do it, was able to get 49. It is hard to get your head around, but that's just how dominant both of those guys have been. And when it comes to Sachin and Virat, the one thing that I will say, and there is a couple of parts to it. So of course Sachin Tendulkar he was incredible, and the runs that he scored, the hundreds that he scored, certainly is incredible. One part is that when Sachin Tendulkar scored his runs, it didn't necessarily meant that India won those games all the time.
Yes.
Which also has one factor in that is also the caliber of your team around you. Like if that doesn't mean just because you score runs, your team might not have the caliber of players around you to be able to help your team win. Whereas obviously the games that Virat's played, when he scored runs, most of the time India have won. So that can come down to how they score it, when they score the runs, but also the talent of their team around them. But what I will say is Virat Kohli's chasing to win is definitely better. And the numbers are there. It's very obvious that his numbers are better than Sachin Tendulkar. He's got 2700s. He's averaged over 90 chasing, whereas Sachin Tendulkar averages just over 50, which is still amazing, but averages just over 50 chasing. So for me, that statistic alone just puts Virat that tiny, like just that little bit above Sachin, even though the heights are as high as you can possibly get. But for me, that just gives Virat Kohli the edge because of his chasing ability and the average to be able to get your team across the line chasing, which is obviously what he is the best that's ever been at that.
Shane, it was really nice interviewing you. Thank you so much for your time. I really hope both Australia and India do well and they meet in a knockout match once again.
Yes, let's hope so.
Thank you so much.
Awesome, my pleasure. No worries at all.
Thanks
Bye.
for your time. Thank you, guys.
Pleasure. No
Thanks,
worries.
Shane. See you soon.
Thanks. See you soon.
Bye-bye.